This is an example of some baby acne that we want to take out of here. So what we're going to do first and foremost, I always like to duplicate my background layer. So I'm going to come over here to my layers palette, hit Command J, and it's going to jump everything to a new layer. And then I'm going to rename that Retouched. Don't have to rename it, but I like to. All right, so after I've done that, I'm going to come in here and kind of assess what needs to be done. There are a couple little flakes, so I'm just going to use my dust and scratches technique really quick to get those out of there. And basically all it is go to the filter menu, the noise, then dust and scratches. 7 and 10 is usually about where I like it. So you're going to hit OK. Then I like to add some noise, go to filter again, add noise, and just do like 1% Gaussian monochromatic noise. Now I'm going to use my history brush. I'm going to source that state, and then I'm going to go back to where I changed that name. Now, using my history brush, it's over here underneath your brush tool. You can hit the Y key to get to it, set it to darken, and then just paint out those little white spots. It works very well for little dust and flakes and whatnot. It also works good for little pieces of, like hair, fuzz, whatnot, and you can get rid of things like that. The other thing that it works really well for is like beard stubble on dads. For some of these bigger flakes, you can always run it again and change your parameters on that dust and scratches filter, or usually what I do is just use it for my little ones, and then I'll come in here and see how it left a little bit of residue, and then I'll just use my remove tool. So right now my remove tool is in the mode where generative AI is on, and I want it to work a little faster, so I'm going to turn it off. You can also turn it to auto and it will decide for you, but I like to have it off just so that it works pretty fast, unless I get to the point where it's not doing what I want it to do, in which case I'll turn that generative AI on. So I'm just going to come in here and very quickly get rid of some of these bigger ones, not aggressively so, but just some of the bigger marks. Okay, and after I've got those kind of taken out, I'm going to use a hue saturation layer to take out some of this red to determine how much more retouching do I really need to do, and how much of it is actually color and can be taken care of with a little quick hue saturation layer. So the way that I like to take out red in this sort of circumstance where we've got some darker spots and then some lighter spots is use your hue saturation. So you're going to come down to this little icon that's half and half. You're going to find hue saturation. And then you're going to go to your properties panel and go to red channel. So I'm just going to pull this over here so you can see it better. On my red channel, I'm going to bring this hue all the way up. It's going to look crazy for a second. And then I'm going to use my little eyedroppers, and I'm going to just click around those areas that I know to be the most red. So everything that's this dark, dark blue is the areas that's being affected the most. And then it fades out to that green and then yellow where those areas are not being affected as much. And you can adjust these little levers here to make that more or less so. So what I want to do is really target those areas that are really, really red and do less targeting on the areas that I don't want to affect so much, like the background and these areas of his cheek where I like his skin tone. So something like this is kind of where I want it, where these areas that are really red are being affected the most, and then the other areas are kind of fading away. If you're not seeing any color, it means nothing's being affected there. So if I zoom out, you can see like nothing on the background or his wrap or anything is being affected. It's all just in here in his face. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this back to 0. It looks like nothing's happening because nothing is yet. And then we're going to bring that hue saturation up. So it's currently red. We want to move it more towards those yellow tones. So we're going to move it to the right. If I moved it to the left, it's going to go more red, more magenta. If I move it to the right, it's going to go more orange and yellow. And that's what I want to blend in with the rest of his skin. Now, the other thing is that these red spots are not only are they red and we want to shift them towards yellow, but they're also darker. So you could just come in here and bring your lightness up, and that works. But what I've found is that if you just bring up the lightness, it starts to look a little bit washed out. So you also need to bring up that hue, that saturation. So it's the combination of the things working together that really give you the best result. So if you do something like that, you can turn it on and off and see what it's doing. I still think it's a little bit too light and not quite enough saturation. So I'm going to keep playing with this until I get just the right amount where it's pulling the sting of that red out. It's going nice and yellow, and it's lightening it up. It's not going to take it fully out, but it is going to make a dramatic reduction in that redness. Can you see that? Okay, I like that. The other thing that you can do is paint away any areas that are too aggressive. So like for instance, I want his lips to stay red. In this one, you're not really seeing his lips too much, but I do think it would be helpful to come in here with just a black brush, paint on that mask, and take his lips out. I'm gonna make sure my brush is nice and soft. And then I might just do just a tiny bit on his cheeks so that a little bit of red can still come through there. I want to get it out by his nose, but a little bit on the apples of his cheeks. All right, so there, now we've taken a lot of that sting out around his nose, and we can decide if we want to continue to use like our patch tool or anything like that, or we also can try the new new neural filters and see how that skin smoothing does. So let's try that and see what kind of results it can give us. So in order to do that, we're going to go to our filter menu and we're going to go to neural filters. And here's his little face. We're going to turn on that skin smoothing. And obviously that's too far. What I like to do is to be a little bit lower in my blur so that I get some of that texture back. I want it to be blurred a little bit, but not too much. And then I want to bring my smoothness up just a touch. I'm not looking at his eyes here or his eyebrows. I'm just looking at this kind of bridge of his nose, the area that we were really having the most issues. I like to output it to a new layer mask, and I'm just going to hit OK. Now, if I turn this on and off, you can see it's definitely too far on his eyes, his nose, his lips. So what I'm going to do is click on that layer mask and just paint out those areas. So I'm going to take those out and that out and that out and his lips. So now you can see it's just softening that area around his nose. It's taking some of that lower layer out that was a little bit aggressive. And there's our before and after, and so much better on that skin. It's not plastic. It's not like over the top. He's still got some texture, but it is taking all that redness and the little flakes and acne out of the way for us.